Hey everybody, this is Roberto Blake helping you create something awesome today. So one of the most common topics on the entire YouTube channel is what my setup is for shooting these videos, what equipment I use, and a tour of the studio. Well, this video is not that, but what this video is what's in my camera bag. So the Nikon D3100 is going to be standing in for the D3200 that I shoot all these videos with. That is my typical go-to camera, but we're going to use my backup spare, the D3100, to stand in for that today while I shoot. So let's take a look at my camera bag. What I have is the actual Think Tank City Walker 30, and this thing is huge. This weighs a ton for me, but you'll see why with all the gear that I keep in here. But it's so comfortable, and the strap is just well developed and well designed to the point to where even for someone with a small frame like me, carrying around all this gear isn't a hassle anymore. And I used to have to use 2 camera bags just to carry around the stuff that's in this one. So let's go ahead and dive into my bag and see what I'm walking around with. So you get a good look here at the City Walker 30. This is a tremendous camera bag, and it fits everything I need to do a shoot, both for photography, for video, for everything I'm doing. This gets the job done for me. And one of the first things that's in here is the fact that it actually fits a 15-inch laptop. It fits my 15-inch Asus laptop that I've been using for a long time now, a little over maybe 3 years. Unfortunately, this laptop is going to be retired from the Army of Awesome, so I'm going to be doing a video on what my new upgrade is going to look like, and I have a couple of videos on the channel about different laptop recommendations, so you should definitely make sure you check that out. So we've got that in there. This is an interesting accessory that I'll be doing a review on. This is the Zoom H1N. This is a digital audio recorder. And what this does is I can go ahead and I can put a microphone, like the shotgun microphone that I use, which is over here. And this is a Taskar shotgun microphone. This is something else in the camera bag. Using these in combination means that if I don't have direct input, like I do on the D3100, I don't have direct audio input there, and I don't want to use the in-camera audio, I can use these in combination to get really clean, crisp audio when I'm shooting out in the field. Now, normally I'll just mount this on the D3200 if I'm using that camera instead of using the 31 as a second angle, and this will pick up my field audio. But if I ever need something else or I need to interview somebody, the Zoom H1N does a great job. It has audio in, and if I need to monitor it on headphones, it's got another jack right here for that. This is under $100. This is about maybe $75. This shotgun mic here, I'll have a link in the description below. It's about $35, $40. And this is a good setup for your DSLR audio, and I talk about that in a whole other video. So in addition to good audio, we've talked constantly about lighting. So one of the things I have for when I'm shooting DSLR video is this bad boy. And this is from Newer, and this is an LED light panel with barn doors and a dimmer. And I can just go ahead and use this, and I can control how much light's coming out of it. I can direct it with the barn doors. So this is really good for doing stuff either in low light situations or where I just need extra lighting or I need to do something. And I've used this on shoots before, and this works out really well. But let's say I'm doing photography. I have 2 different flashes that fit inside this bag. So I have 2 different flashes that I use inside this bag. I have the Yongnuo 560 second edition, and this works out really well for me. Yongnuo is comparable to Nikon in almost every way, as best as I can tell. Canon too, if you guys are shooting on Canon. So I highly recommend these. These flashes are usually between $75 and $120. The weight on them is pretty hefty, so keep that in mind. And the other flash that I use is my Nikon SB600, which is a little older, but it still gets the job done. And again, this can actually be a commander to other flashes. Now, there's something else that I use that's not in this camera bag that is a setup for remote triggers, and I'll talk about that in another video. And for those, I use a few additional speed lights, but eventually I'll be replacing all of those extra remote speed lights with Yongnuo speed lights. So again, stay tuned for my remote flash video, and I'll talk about that more. So one of the other things that the Think Tank City Walker and all the Think Tank bags come with is a raincoat. And this is fantastic because you don't want your gear to get wet, or if you're in the middle of something, maybe you don't want to get wet. So this is really handy, and I'm glad that it comes with this. So that's in there too. One of my favorite lenses that I always walk around with is my 35mm prime, and I'm gonna have to do a review on this soon. But this is my Nikkor 35mm prime f1.8. This thing gets tremendous shots. I'm just gonna actually key one up here on the screen for you. The shots in the bokeh and the color this gets are just amazing. I prefer this to the Nifty 50. Everyone likes to go with the Nifty 50, a 50mm f1.8 prime lens. It's a great lens too. The reason I go with this is because I'm using a DX body, which means for the crop factor, this is about the same thing as a true 50mm lens if you were shooting on something like the D610 or something like that. So that's why I do it. Me and Chibi are going to be shooting with the Nikon 85mm f1.8 coming up this week at KatsuCon, so I'm going to also have to do a review on that lens, and I might actually do a comparison between the two once we get some shots from them. So again, make sure you're stay tuned, you're subscribed, and you watch those videos as well if you want to learn more about prime lenses and which one's the right fit for you. So speaking of photo shoots, something that I like to do is, we talked about my flashes. I have an accessory here that a lot of people don't talk about here on YouTube, and that is a rotating flash bracket and sync cable. And what this does is you're able to actually put this on a camera, and you're able to flip the flash and have it be off camera and be able to angle it correctly however you want. So this is great if you want to shoot in landscape or portrait mode. So you can go vertical, horizontal, whatever you need to do, and you can still utilize your speedlight flash. So that's why I do that. And again, the sync cable is so that can go directly onto the DSLR. And these cost under 20 bucks. Remember, links to all of my gear will be in the description below, so you can get that from Amazon if you want. When shooting outdoor in daylight, or if you're in a place that has a skylight, then you'll want to actually cut some of the light from your shots. And for that, you want to use an ND filter. Now, I have another set of ND filters in here, but I'm going to actually not be using them going forward just because they were a little less expensive. And for me, I found that I had some autofocus issues. But if you need a set of ND filters and you're going to be focusing manually, then you can definitely use those, and I'll still include a link to them. But I prefer to go with Hoya ND filters, and they're not sponsoring the channel, by the way. Nobody is for this video, but this is the ND filter set that I'm using now because I've had good experiences with Hoya, UV filters in the past, and not having problems with the autofocusing or the color with those to protect my lenses. And they were just a little more expensive, but I decided that it was worth it, so I invested into the ND filters for that as well, and that's what I'll be using this weekend. This is my carry case for my SD cards that I use. I, again, use 35GB and 16GB SD cards. I have about 10 or 12 of them now, and that's what I'll be using this weekend to just fill up with shots all weekend long without having to worry about anything. So I recommend you get as many memory cards as you possibly can. I use Transcend memory cards. I did a whole video about the best memory cards that you can pick and which ones are right for shooting on video for DSLR as well as photography. So again, if you have advanced questions about that and what class 1 is versus class 10, whether you should buy Lexar, Transcend, or SanDisk, I answered that in that video. So make sure you check that out if you still don't know what memory card is right for your camera. Just make sure you always have more than enough memory cards so that you don't have to interrupt shooting or they don't fill up in the middle of something important and then you find yourself stuck, because that's like one of the worst things in the world that can happen on a shoot. Something that I've noticed is not in a lot of photographers' camera bags is a notebook. I always keep a notebook and a pen in my camera bags, and the reason is you want to be able to take down information, take down notes if you have to for any reason. And sometimes it's good to be able to have these and have a shot list. Unless you're going to print one out from the computer, which is okay to do too, but to have a shot list sometimes, especially if you're doing video and you have to remember what you're supposed to be getting and what you're supposed to be shooting, especially if it's going to be an all-day shoot, that's extremely important for keeping organized. So I definitely recommend making sure you walk around with one of those in your camera bag whenever possible. And it doesn't have to be a big composition book like this, it can just be a little notepad. So another thing I keep in the camera bag is a flathead screwdriver, and the reason is because I use a lot of different camera mounts, including one that I use for a DSLR fly cam. So having this means that I can go ahead and switch out between that, tighten up any gear, tighten up stuff on tripods, etc. So make sure you have this or a multi-tool of some kind. I usually keep one of those on my belt as well. So just make sure you have that kind of thing so that you can tighten up and change out things as you need to. Finally, let's get to the camera. So this is the D3100. This is my spare body, and it is standing in for the D3200 that I usually shoot these videos with. And on it is a 55 to 200 millimeter lens. It is a variable aperture lens, so that means it goes from 3.6 at the lowest to 5.6 at the highest, just natively. And this is still a solid lens. It is still quote unquote a kit lens, but I know as much as other photographers and people talk trash on kit lenses, when you're doing certain types of videos or certain types of photos and you don't need to invest more or you're not making the money at it, these do just fine. And I've still gotten some of my best shots on these. And when I want to do something else, I use prime lenses or I rent something bigger. But in terms of owning something for day-to-day use, the kit lenses will be fine to start out with, and if you need to go to more expensive glass, I highly recommend renting from somewhere like Borrow Lenses rather than investing in it before you even know how to use it properly or before you're even doing like good composition, basic lighting. Until you're at a higher level and advanced level for your photography, I don't recommend really investing more than $600 in any one piece of equipment. You can do that if you feel like you're going to commit, but and the earlier you do that, the better, absolutely. But when you're just starting out or if you're on a budget, understand that this will get by just fine in most situations. Low light is obviously the exception. And again, it won't be as tack sharp as an f2.8 lens, but you will be able to still get the shots you need, zoom in, and get something tremendous as long as you know what you're doing as a photographer or a video person. On the bottom here is the mount I talked about for my DSLR fly cam, because that's how I particularly use this one for getting some action stuff. So that's just like what I prefer to usually use it for, or for a second camera angle. Again, I primarily use the D3200 that is filming this video, and right now it's using the other kit lens, which is the 18 to 55. And finally, probably one of the most important things that you should have in your camera bag at all times is business cards. So if you don't have business cards and you're out there and people are interested in what you're doing, they don't have a way to hire you to do work for them potentially, or to get in touch with you how to get their shots if you did candid somewhere or what have you. So again, having business cards and the ability for people to follow up with you is extremely important. And if you're going to forget anything in your camera bag, don't forget these. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this close-up look at what's in my camera bag and how I do the things that I do, how I shoot. I'm going to be doing a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff coming up, especially from my weekend trips. So make sure you're subscribed to get all of those, and you'll see how I shoot stuff in the real world. If you have questions about the gear in my bag, remember, links are in the description below so you can get any of that you're interested in. If you have questions, leave those in the comments section, and I'll answer them as best as I can. And I want to know, what is it that you guys are using in your camera bag? I really would be interested in that. So make sure you're leaving that in the comment section as well. Anyway, like this video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. Check out the other awesome content on the channel. As always, you guys, thanks so much for watching. And don't forget, create something awesome today.